We're back again on 3 and Out. I'm Ryan Orlovsky with Brian Carter. We had to rake through the emails this time, and here they are. First email's from Andrew. At what point do you know if a team is for real in the Major League Baseball? Some teams start off so hot and others not. I think June's a good cutoff point. I mean, you look at the Marlins right now. The Marlins are very hot. They're at the head of the Eastern Division. But I think June's a good cutoff point because you're 40 games into the season. But once you get to the All-Star break, I mean, you can almost be certain of who's for real or not. That's
exactly what I was going to say. July and August, those are particularly when the weather gets the hottest. And then a lot of times early in the season, it's cold in a lot of the areas, especially up north, and some teams start out slow. You saw the Yankees not exactly starting off on the right foot. The Cardinals and the Marlins starting out very well at the moment, and I kind of question my Cardinals. But again, the Marlins are the biggest surprise team right now, as well as in the East, you got the Blue Jays playing some good baseball, and even the Orioles playing good baseball. It's really tough. You can't make anything of it until after the All-Star break, I would say. Next email is from Avery. It says, "Hey man, are the shows on YouTube just from this year? What are the rest of them? Where are the rest of them?" Yes, they're just from this past semester and a couple other from last semester as well, because we pretty much wanted to stick with the current era of 3 and Out videos, not the ones from the past, I guess is the best way to put it. Next email is from Craig. It says, "Brian, does Adenhart's death remind you of DK or Josh Hancock?" Absolutely, but there's a different feel to it for some reason. And the biggest thing I could come up with is that Adenhart's 22. He had barely had any experience, and here he is in the prime, like not even getting a start to his career, and it ends just like the very day that he pitched one of his best games. And whereas DK, also a tragedy, but at the same time he was 33. They found marijuana in his hotel room. There were a lot of things that go on with that, and I'm not taking away from it. Both of them were very tragic, and Josh Hancock had a DUI, so he was kind of putting himself in that position. But Adenhart wasn't even driving a car. He was a victim of a crazy crime. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, when I heard this, I immediately thought of Daryl Kyle, just because I was younger then, and these young kids, they look up to these athletes. In a way, they're almost immortal. So when something like this happens, they're pretty much in shock, and you just can't really just grasp the fact that a professional athlete. I mean, you think these guys are immortal, and it's just tough to see. It's tough not just for kids; it's tough for everybody.
Yeah, it is.
Next email is from Sean. "I think Cutler was done wrong, and I think the Bears got a steal." Well, as I said in our last segment, I agree with you, Sean. The Bears got an established Pro Bowl caliber quarterback with potential to lead the Bears deep into the playoffs, if not the Super Bowl.
Well, I've already stated my case on this one. I believe Denver, in the long run, gets the better end of the deal. So I don't see that the Bears got a steal. I just think for this point in time, they're going to have some success with him.
Next email is from Daniel. "The wide receivers are always on the move. Where do you think Ocho Cinco and Plaxico will be next season?" I think at this point it's kind of difficult to say, but we'll have a better idea when draft time comes around. Ocho Cinco had a very down year, and I'm not sure any team is going to want the baggage that's going to go along with getting Plex. But possibly the Raiders and the Ravens, I think, are going to show interest, just because Al Davis is a guy who's willing to take some chances, and the Ravens have had some trouble guys in their organization the past couple seasons. So I think that these teams would be interested.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I could definitely see Ocho Cinco going to Oakland, because there was that media report, Oakland taking Ocho Cinco for Michael Bush. However, it didn't actually follow through, but then you got Ocho Cinco or Johnson, whatever you want to call him, he is lobbying for that trade. So I could definitely see him going there. I could see either one going to Atlanta as well. It just really depends on, again, like you said, we got to wait for the draft, because there's a good receiver draft coming in through. So depending on where those guys go, you'll get a better idea of where these free agent people are going to end up as well.
Next email is from Steven. "How did you feel about the men's and women's NCAA championships and the NIT?" Well, I think the best teams won without a doubt. I mean, you have the UConn women, who are undefeated. Nobody stood a chance against them. And UNC, who had an awesome season as well, and their romp of Michigan State just proved that they deserve to be on top. PSU winning the NIT was good to see, because it may turn their program around, may turn the school. It's not really a basketball school, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. And the Nittany Lions just missed out on the March Madness. So, I mean, this is a team that I think was definitely worthy of winning the NIT.
Oh, right. They were 27-11, had the most wins in school history. As you mentioned, you think Penn State, you all automatically think football, but this is good for their basketball program as well. UNC, that game was absolutely bizarre. I stopped watching that one very early. It was not even 5 minutes into the first half, and Michigan State was getting rolled over. So I cut that one off early. That was not an entertaining game for me. UConn, the women, go undefeated. Great season for them, as Ryan said. Louisville did make a very strong run, though. Our seventh and final email is going to be from Anthony. Brian, is it really true that you met Steven Jackson in Atlanta? Yes, and I will share that story with you right now. I was actually at Hooters having a nice some wings.
Always at Hooters.
A cold one. And a table next to me, I saw the build of the player, and I'm like, all right, this guy's a football player. You could just tell his arms were like barrels. And he had the dreads coming out the back, and I'm like, all right, that looks just like Steven Jackson. And then I saw him in the face, and I'm like, I confirmed it. That's Steven Jackson. So what do? I finally got up the nerve to go over to the table, and I'm like, what's your name? And he goes, oh, what's your name? And I said, Brian. And then and he goes, all right, well, my name's Dimitri. And you could just tell he made it up. But that was my boy Steven Jackson. And he did indeed spend a lot of time in Atlanta. As you can look online, find that out on your own. Whatever.
Well, we're finished with the emails, but glue yourself to that seat because we'll be right back with more 3 and Out.